प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. My humble obeisances to all the Vaishnavas on the call. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Hare Krishna, and we are studying Bhagavad Gita. This is chapter 6. Chapter 6 is titled Ashtanga Yoga. We already in our previous session, we saw the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga. How you start with Yama, Niyama, then Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and then finally we go to the perfected stage of Samadhi. So like that, Ashtanga Yoga has 8 different limbs. So it's called as Ashtanga Yoga. That's what we have seen in the previous 2 verses. We saw the initial stages, which is called as Aru Rukshu stage, and then the perfected stage, which is called as Arudha stage. So in the Aru Ruksha stage, what is the devotee trying to do? Or the person who's practicing Ashtanga Yoga trying to do? He's trying to first follow the rules and regulations. He performs some asanas, he controls his breath, and he tries to get his senses controlled and not running after the sense objects. But once he has attained perfection and control over his senses, he moves on. After getting the perfection of control of senses, he's able to bring it back. From then on, he goes on to Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi, which is the Arudha stage, the perfection stage. So that's what we saw in our previous class, in the previous 2 verses, which was verses number 3 and 4. So this was describing the 8 limbs. And we also saw the story of Dhruva Maharaj. We also looked at Kapila's teachings to Devahuti, how this process can be done systematically as described in Bhagavatam. As the teachings of Kapila to Devahuti. And we saw in the example of Dhruva Maharaj how he practically exhibited it, all the different stages. Okay. So from there, we are continuing, and today we will cover the next 2 verses, which is 5 and 6. And these 2 verses are again connected, and they talk about the control of the mind. Why? Because Ashtanga Yoga, first and foremost thing is mind control. If the mind is not controlled, the senses are also not controlled. So you have to really control the mind. The mind should be under strict disciplinary action. And unless you control the mind, you can't do pratyahara properly. That is the reason mind is a very important factor in Ashtanga Yoga. So let's see what 5 and 6 is going to tell us. I'll read once and then 2-3 people can read. I think that is the format, right?
Yep.
So I'll read once. Uddharet atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmanaiva hi atmano bandhur atmanaiva ripuratmana. Anyone would like to read?
Uddharet atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hi atmano bandhur atmaiva ripur atmana.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Uddharet atmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hi atmano bandhur atmaiva ripur atmanaha.
Jai, thank you, Prabhu. Very nice. Anyone else?
Anybody else?
Uddhare atmana manam nata manam avashde atmevya atmano bandhur atme va ripur atmana.
Very good. Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice. So the word-to-word translations. Uddharet, one must deliver, Atmana, by the mind, Atmanam, the conditioned soul, Na, never, Atmanam, the conditioned soul, Avasadayet, put into degradation. Atma, mind, Eva, certainly, he, indeed, Atmanaha, of the conditioned soul. Bandhuhu, friend, Atma, mind, Eva, certainly, Ripuhu, enemy, Atmanaha, of the conditioned soul. So I have a question for you before we read the translation. How many times has the word Atma come in this verse?
6 times, Mataji.
Yes,
7
Prabhu.
times.
Yeah. 6 times, yes. You're right. Yeah, 6 times. And interestingly, what is the meaning of Atma that we all know?
Spirit, right, Mataji?
Spirit, yes, it is spirit. Very nice. So we know that Atma means the spirit or the soul is Atma. But if you see the word-to-word translation, you have seen that sometimes Atma indicates the conditioned soul, and sometimes Atma indicates the mind. Okay, especially because it is Dhyana Yoga chapter, we see that Atma here, when you put the words together, Atma can mean two different things. Atma can mean the soul, and Atma especially can even mean the mind. But we'll understand how and why in a few minutes, okay? Before that, anyone wants to read translation?
Yeah, go ahead, Prabhu. Jai Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Translation with Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So here, one must deliver himself. Himself means what? What does himself indicate?
The conditions also, right, Mataji?
Conditioned soul, yes. That is called as Atma. One must deliver himself, who's the conditioned soul, with the help of his mind. Here, in the word-to-word translation, mind is also Atma, and not degrade himself. The Atma, the mind, is the friend of the conditioned soul, who's Atma, and he is the enemy as well. Who's the enemy? The mind. The mind is both the friend and enemy. So basically, if we want to deliver ourselves through any process, be it Ashtanga Yoga or any process, especially with the help of the mind and not degrade ourselves, we should understand the mind is the friend. At the same time, the mind can also be the enemy, which means it's all in the mind. Okay, mind is our best friend, mind is our greatest enemy. Actually, there is no enemy or friend outside. All the enemy is within us, and especially it all lies in the concoctions of the mind. The mind is deliberating, the mind is thinking, this person is my friend, that person is my enemy. If that person is not doing what I desire, he's my enemy. If that person has done something which is not favorable to me, he is my enemy. If that person is making me happy, then that person is my friend. Actually, it's all in the mind, because no soul can be another soul's friend or enemy in the realistic sense, because we are all spirit soul. Spirit soul is what? Spirit soul means part and parcel of Krishna. We are all Jivera Swarapai Krishna and Natyadas. So the soul in general can never be anyone's friend or enemy. That is in the realistic sense. This conception of friend and enemy is all created within the mind. This is the understanding that we are going to get from this verse and the next verse. Okay. So, but before we understand that, we'll also read Srila Prabhupada's purport in great detail. So Prabhupada says the word Atma can mean many things. 3 words are given here. The word Atma can denote body. The word Atma can denote the mind. And the word Atma can also denote the soul. So 3 meanings are given for Atma. This is from the Sanskrit dictionary. So depending on context, one may take the understanding of Atma to be either the body or the mind or the soul. In this translation, 2 meanings are given. One is the mind and the other is the soul. So depending on context and usage, An expert acharya can find out where it means mind, where it means soul, or where it may mean body. In the Bhagavad Gita itself, in many places, the word Atma has been translated in various ways. Sometimes it can even mean the Paramatma, the super soul. Again, it depends on context. Okay, so at least we know 4 meanings for the word Atma. There was a very nice conversation between, actually, there is a nice verse in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that describes the glories of Shukadev Goswami. It is called as the Atma Rama verse. And there was a very nice conversation between Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the various meanings of the Atma Rama verse. And just with the word Atma, they were able to find various meanings. And by combining all these words, they got 64 meanings for the Atma Rama verse. So like this, just by changing the words, the meaning of the word. Sometimes if you refer Atma to be a body, you get a different meaning from the verse. If you refer Atma to be the soul, you will get a different meaning. Like that, by various combinations, permutations, combinations, they were able to get 64 meanings for one verse. So that is the power of Sanskrit language. We should see the context and we should decide what the meaning is. So here we have seen that with the help of mind, we should learn to deliver ourselves. We should not degrade ourselves, because the mind can be your best friend or it can be your greatest enemy for the conditioned soul. This is the power of the mind. Now, anyone wants to start reading the purport? Because I think that's the pattern, right?
Yeah. Okay. Vishaka Mataji, you want to read, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The word Atma denotes body, mind, and soul, depending upon different circumstances. In the yoga system, the mind and the conditioned soul are especially important. Since the mind is the central point of yoga practice, Atma refers here to the mind. The purpose of the yoga system is to control the mind and to draw it away from attachment to sense objects. It is stressed herein that the mind must be so trained that it can deliver the conditioned soul from the mirror of nescience. In the material existence, one is subjected to the influence of the mind and the senses. In fact, the pure soul is entangled in the material world because the mind is involved with the false ego, which desires to lord it over material nature. Therefore, the mind should be trained so that it will not be attracted by the glitter of material nature, and in this way, the conditioned soul may be saved. One should not degrade oneself from attraction to sense objects. The more one is attracted to sense objects, the more one becomes entangled in material existence. The best way to disentangle oneself is to always engage the mind in Krishna consciousness. The word he is used for emphasizing this point. That is, that one must do this. Prabhuji, should I
Yeah,
go?
continue, Mataji, continue.
Okay. It is also said, Mana eva manusyanam karanam bandhana mokshayo bandhanaya vishaya sango muktayai nirvishayam manaha. For man, mind is the cause of bondage and mind is the cause of liberation. Mind absorbed in sense objects is the cause of bondage, and mind detached from the sense objects is the cause of liberation. From Amrita Bindu Upanishad 2. Therefore, the mind, which is always engaged in Krishna consciousness, is the cause of supreme liberation. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, from this purport, we have seen that the mind is extremely important for a person who's especially following the Ashtanga Yoga system. It is the central point of the yoga practice. What is most important in an Ashtanga Yoga process? It is the mind. The mind takes a pivotal role. Why does mind take a pivotal role in Ashtanga Yoga? Simply because the process of pratyahara is very important. Unless you succeed in the process of pratyahara, which is sense control. How is sense control achieved? It is achieved through a controlled mind. Unless that is done, it is very difficult for us to move on from that Aruruksha, that initial stage, to the Arudha stage. So the influence of the mind takes a very important role here. So who are the two people involved in Ashtanga Yoga? Two Atmas involved in the Ashtanga Yoga process. One is the conditioned soul, who is trying to control the mind, which is also Atma. So there are two Atmas in Ashtanga Yoga. One is the conditioned soul, the other is the mind. These two are very, very important. The soul is trying to control the mind. And only if the mind is controlled and the senses are completely withdrawn for an Ashtanga yogi, he will not be able to progress. But Prabhupada tells us that the best way for you to disentangle yourself from this material mire, this material attraction of this world, is to engage the mind in Krishna consciousness instead of artificially withdrawing it. In the Ashtanga Yoga process, you're taught to stay still, meditate, and try to artificially withdraw your attraction for senses and control the mind. But in a Krishna conscious process, it is mentioned here that it is very, very easy for you to control the mind. How? How do you control the mind in a Krishna conscious way? There's a very beautiful verse at Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. This is in the 9th canto, and it is in relation to Ambarish Maharaj. Savai Manaha Krishna Padaravindayor Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunarna Varnane Karau Harer Mandira Marjanasu Shrutim Chakara Achyuta Sat Katotya, which means Ambarish Maharaj engaged his mind, how in Krishna consciousness? By meditating on the lotus feet of Krishna. So, first thing is to fix your mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. How can you fix your mind on the lotus feet of Krishna? What is a practical way for us to fix our mind in Krishna? The practical way to control the mind for a devotee is by chanting the holy names. Okay, that is why the first thing in the morning we are asked to do is to chant our rounds. It might appear like as if it's a mechanical exercise, you're just murmuring something, but that sound vibration has the power to bring the mind under control. The chatter of the mind is constantly giving you so many ideas. The chatter of the mind can be silenced by the power of the holy name. So one is asked to listen to the holy name, and that is the way one can engage their mind in Krishna consciousness. So the mind is the culprit 99% of the time. If the mind is under control, everything can come under control. That's why devotees are often told, first thing in the morning, just silence your mind. Listen to the holy names and your day will be perfect. Your consciousness will stay intact throughout the day. Okay. Here he is also mentioning that the word he is certainly. So he means certainly. So he says this mind here, you can see that he Atmanaiva he Atmana Bandhur Atmanaiva Ripuratmanaha. The mind is certainly one's friend and one's enemy, because the mind can pull you down to this material world. The mind can also help you get liberated from this material world. It's all in the mind. This is what is mentioned in the Upanishads as well, and that is quoted here. We'll do the next verse and we'll proceed and we'll try to wrap our minds around these two verses, okay? There's a lot for us to understand in these two verses. So what we'll do is 6.6 is nothing but a continuation of 6.5. In 6.5, we saw it is all about the mind, right? Mind is very, very important for an Ashtanga yogi. With the help of a controlled mind, he's either able to deliver himself or he's getting entangled. And mind alone is the friend or enemy. And the same thing is repeated in the next verse. So the next verse is Bandhur Atmanatmastasya Yenatmaivatmanajitah Atmanastu Shatrutve Vartetatmainaiva Shatruvat. Anyone wants to read the verse and then the translation?
Ashish Prabhu, you want to do, Prabhu?
Sure, Prabhuji. Thank you.
So I go with the synonyms?
No, no,
Prabhuji?
just read the verse and then translation, Prabhu.
Okay. Bandhur atmatmanastasya yena maivatmana jitah anatmanastu satrutve varte tatmaiva satruvat.
Yeah, translation.
Translation, Prabhuji.
Translation I'll pull down.
Translation by Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ji ki jai. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy.
Yeah. Okay. So the same thing is pretty much again elaborated in this verse that if you have conquered your mind, see here in this previous verse, he said mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and enemy as well. But how is the mind the friend and how is the mind the enemy? That is explained in this verse. If you have conquered the mind is the best of friends. But if you have not conquered the mind, if you are leaving your mind to go haywire everywhere, then the mind is the greatest of the enemy. If you're not controlling your mind is your enemy. Like there is an old Native Indian saying, right? Native American saying. Oftentimes, our Guru Maharaj also mentions this. There are two dogs within us. One dog is the good dog, the other is the bad dog. Both of them are barking. The good dog, he is barking very slowly, like that he is barking. But the bad dog, with all these evil thoughts and intentions, he's screaming, like that he's barking continuously. So, which dog will win? The Native American saying says the dog you choose to feed, that dog will win. Which means if you are just feeding in negative thoughts and you're not controlling your mind, then that negativity itself will win. But if you're able to control your mind and focus it properly, then you will be the master of your mind. Your mind will become your friend. Uncontrolled mind, unbridled mind will be the greatest enemy, but a controlled mind is the greatest of friends. So anyone wants to read purport? Then we'll discuss all the points together.
I can read, Mataji.
Yeah, Mataji, go ahead, Mataji.
Purport by Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The purpose of practicing Eightfold Yoga is to control the mind in order to make it a friend in discharging the human mission. Unless the mind is controlled, the practice of yoga for show is simply a waste of time. One who cannot control his mind lives always with the greatest enemy, and thus his life and its missions are spoiled. The constitutional position of the living entity is to carry out the order of the superior. As long as one's mind remains an unconquered enemy, one has to serve the detection of lust, anger, avarice, illusion, etc. But when the mind is conquered, one is voluntarily agrees to abide by the detection of the personality of Godhead, who is situated within the heart of everyone as a Paramatma. Real yoga practice entails submitting the Paramatma within the heart and then following his detection. For one who takes the Krishna consciousness directly, perfect surrender to the detection of the Lord follows automatically.
Yeah, very nice. So Prabhupada is telling us the mind control is very, very important in this Eightfold Yoga practice. If you have not controlled your mind and you're just doing some external exercises, then you're doing yoga only for a show. Okay, it's a waste of time. Now he tells, why should you control your mind? Because if you have an uncontrolled mind, the mind will be your enemy and you will simply follow the dictations of lust, anger, avarice, and illusion. That means you're just going to develop all the negative qualities. But then if you're able to control your mind, what is the result? What will you achieve if you control your mind? In the eightfold process of yoga, or it can be even in bhakti, if the mind is controlled, the mind will, all the chatter of the mind is silenced, it is controlled, you will be able to connect with the Paramatma in the heart. Okay, this is true for a devotee. This is also true for an Ashtanga yogi. That's why Prabhupada very nicely, he says here, but when the mind is conquered, one voluntarily agrees to abide by the dictation of the personality of Godhead who's there within the heart as the Paramatma. You will automatically start listening to the Paramatma who's giving dictations. If your mind is not controlled, you will only hear the chatter of the mind. So that's why mind control is so important. And as a devotee, when we are doing chanting also, we are actually trying to achieve mind control only. As we keep chanting, we say we are getting purified. How are we getting purified? We are getting purified because of the power of the holy names. But what is the purification? The purification is that more and more the want and need of the senses and the mind is put to rest, and more our soul is turning towards the dictations of the Lord. So that is what is happening. That is the purification that is happening as we are following a practice to control the mind, such as chanting the holy names. So that's why Prabhupada says, if one takes direct shelter of Krishna consciousness, then there is perfect surrender to the dictation of the Lord, and the Lord's dictations automatically follow. Automatically, you become a surrendered devotee if you're able to control your mind through the process of Krishna conscious, of chanting. Now, controlling the mind is actually very difficult. It's very difficult. We can say we are chanting and we are controlling the mind, but the mind is like a monkey. It keeps jumping everywhere. And somehow, through the process of chanting, there is some change in us. Of course, we are all seeing visible changes in our life through the process of chanting. Our mind is getting better tuned. But the mind actually needs the assistance of the intelligence to take the right decisions. So let's understand a little bit about the physiology of the subtle body. So you have the gross body, which is the hands, the eyes, the nose, the face, all of this, legs, all of this is your gross body. There are three components in the subtle body. Subtle body is mind, intelligence, false ego, correct? So there are three components of the subtle body. What is the difference between the mind and intelligence? What is the role of the intelligence in controlling the mind? If you think about all that, take the example of a pizza. You are walking and you see a nice pizza shop. Supposing you're very fond of pizza, supposing, okay? And you see the pizza, immediately the mind, as I mentioned, is a repository of all thoughts, all impressions that you may have had in the past. Maybe you have tasted a pizza, you know the taste of the pizza, the taste of the cheese, the jalapenos and the pineapple or bell pepper, whatever, you have relished it so much. So this mind is a repository of all the impressions you have gathered through your senses. How did you gather the impressions? Through tasting, right? It is your senses, through the smell, the fragrance, the taste. You've heard from others, pizza is such an awesome, cool thing to eat. So through your senses, you have gathered information, and all this information is sitting as a repository of thoughts. It's a repository of impressions that is all sitting there in the mind. Mind is the chief of all senses. So all this is put into the mind. So what's happening? The minute your senses, your eyes have come in contact with the pizza shop and you see a beautiful picture of a nice vegetarian pizza, what's happening? All the thoughts and impressions you've had about the pizza pops. Immediately the mind starts throwing ideas. Oh, pizza, wow, it's going to be so good. There's going to be cheese. And I remember the taste I had 10 years ago. All this will start popping up from your mind. Mind is a repository of all the information. So it's popping up. The minute it starts popping up, what happens? It pushes the senses. It tells, a senses, a tongue. Don't you want to taste the pizza? Don't you want to go inside and take a good sniff? Very, very nice pizza. And my mouth is watering. I want to go. And these senses, they are not easy to control. If the mind is not controlled, the mind is let loose, telling the senses it's okay, go and enjoy, go and enjoy. What will happen? The senses will go, the senses will become the pizza, and the senses will start enjoying. This is the connection between the mind and the senses. Now, for a yogi, can he be like this? Can his mind be haywire? Cannot. He has to be under control. So then, how to control? Here comes the role of the intelligence. Yes, through practice, of course, all these years you're practicing mind control by chanting the holy name. So your mind is somewhat muted, okay? But what is the role of the intelligence? The intelligence at this point will stand up, okay? It will stand up and it will tell. There is good intelligence, there's bad intelligence. Now, the good intelligence, let's look at that. The good intelligence will tell you when you see this pizza and your mind is telling, go inside, go pick a pizza, go taste. This mind is constantly throwing ideas, right? That time the intelligence will tell you, oh, but I have learned that I cannot eat this pizza. How did I learn I cannot eat this pizza? Because I read scriptures, intelligence. No? Intelligence job is to read and process and all that. Oh, I have read the scriptures. In the scriptures, it is mentioned that I may not eat certain foods. Like, for example, maybe the sauce has garlic. Okay, just giving you an idea. It's not exactly according to, I'm not saying that this is the hard and fast rule, but I'm just giving you an idea. Okay, so the intelligence has told me that maybe if I eat this, it is not good. Or maybe it's karmic food, whatever. I've gathered that intelligence how? I gathered the intelligence through reading scriptures. Now, because I've read scriptures, that intelligence is trying to control the mind. The mind is like a baby. It's like a monkey, we say, right? Mind is monkey. It's jumping from one place to the other. So that mind is controlled by a bridle. I mean, by a good, by a person who has a higher control. The person who has that higher control is intelligence. Intelligence is a rational thinker, okay? So it is telling you, see, first and foremost thing, this food is not meant for you. Okay, you should be eating some prasadam. Secondly, the sauce may have some garlic in it, so it's not appropriate for you. Thirdly, maybe there is, it is made in a facility where there is meat, so it's not appropriate for your consumption. And then maybe you're on a diet. You've been trying to avoid cheese and maida and all that, but now you have to eat it. No, it's not good for my health. So where is all this inputs coming from? It is coming from the intelligence. And then if your intelligence is strong, stronger than the mind, then the mind will come under control. But if the intelligence is very weak, it is not sharpened appropriately, the mind will win and you will go and eat the pizza. So what should we do? You have to train the mind. You have to mute the mind by chanting the holy names. You also have to have a strong intelligence. How do you strengthen the intelligence? By studying scriptures. That is the only way to strengthen intelligence. So both go hand in hand. That's why it is mentioned that a part of our sadhana is not just chanting the holy names. Yes, you have to chant holy names. That is the bare minimum. But if you want to have a sharpened intelligence, it is very crucial for you to read scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. You don't have to be a pandit, but you should know the essence of the scripture that you're reading. You should be able to connect. So that's how you may be able to control the mind. Then the rest of it will fall into place. Okay. So now this is about controlling the mind. And the best method of controlling the mind in a Krishna conscious fashion is to meditate on the lotus feet of Krishna. The best way to meditate on Krishna is to chant the holy names. Hear the sound vibrations. With the help of hearing the sound vibrations, you are able to think about Krishna. Now, there is a very beautiful verse in Canto 4, chapter 29, verse number 63. This comes in the context of a conversation between Narad Muni and Prachina Barhishat. Okay? Narad Muni is telling this king Prachin Barhishat about the transmigration of the soul and the role of the mind. How the mind is very, very crucial. This mind, it takes on such an important role in a sadhaka's life. Like we saw in the purport of Srila Prabhupada, he says mind is very, very important. It is extremely important. The translation is one thing, but the purport, Prabhupada, he gives us so much information about mind. So let's see what he says. First of all, the translation. It says, one can understand the mental or conscious position of a living entities by the activities of two kinds of senses, the knowledge acquiring senses and the executive senses. Similarly, by the mental condition or consciousness of a person, one can understand his position in the previous life. It's a heavy statement, very philosophical, and the conversation is also very philosophical. When Prachina Barhishit asked about the transmigration of a soul, why am I in this body? Why am I doing certain activities? This conversation comes. But we are not so much worried about the translation, because if we try to analyze the translation, we have to understand the entire conversation. But what we are interested is in the purport. Okay. So I just want, if someone would like to read, just read a few sentences in the purport and we'll discuss about the mind. Okay. Anyone wants to read?
Puja Mataji, you want to read, Mataji? Or Brijraj Prabhu, you are available?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, go ahead, Prabhu.
You want to start from purport, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
Translation by Sri Prabhupada Ki Jai. This is an English proverb.
There is an English, careful.
There is an English proverb that says that the face is the index of the mind. If one is angry, his anger is immediately expressed in his face. Similarly, other mental states are reflected by the action of the gross body. In the other words, the activities of the gross body are a reaction of the mental condition. The mind's activities are thinking, feeling, and willing. The willing portion of the mind is manifest by activities of the body. The conclusion is that by the activities of the body and senses, we can understand the condition of the mind.
Very good. I'll just stop there for a second. So, this purport is telling us there is a famous English proverb that says face is the index of the mind. Whatever you're thinking in the mind, obviously, there will be some reaction on your face or in your action. Right? If someone is lying, it's easy to find out that person is lying, because somehow the facial expressions will tell you that he's trying to hide something. So, whatever is going on in the mind is somehow expressed as an action. If you're very angry, it is seen in your eyes. It is seen like, you're suddenly getting very violent. You're throwing things. If you're very happy, you're very happy. You're smiling to yourself. You don't know why you're smiling. Why? Because internally in the mind, there is some change. What are the activities of the mind? What is the mind doing? The mind is thinking, willing, and feeling. I told you it's a repository of all sorts of impressions. There is some thought process going on. There is some feeling and willing. Willing means what? That willing portion of the mind is manifest by the actions of the body. Because the mind is telling you you're willing to do something. Okay, like they say, don't think negative about anybody. When they talk about Vaishnava Aparadh, favorite topic of all the speakers is Vaishnava Aparadh. They say, don't even harbor ill feelings. And they also tell you that unless it manifests into an action, it is really not an aparadh. But then once it is in the mind and you're manifesting some ill feelings towards somebody, it's not too late before it is coming out as an action. So that's why they say even don't even think anything bad. Leave it. If the mind is sending that signal, I don't like this person, I hate this person, just stop the mind right there and think of something else, or chat, or hear some nice lecture and silence the mind. Why? Because the mind can think, it can feel emotions, and it can will. Will means what? That thought process will result in an action through the activity of the body. Then it is a big problem. Okay, so this mind is actually affected by many past activities in this body and in the past body. So mind and body are very closely connected. So here he says, sometimes when you have anger in the mind, the tongue vibrates so many maledictions. That means you start cursing. Similarly, when the mind's anger is expressed through the hand, there is fighting. When it is expressed through the leg, there is kicking. So like this, there are so many ways in which the subtle activities of the mind is expressed through various senses. So similarly, how does this chanting help in controlling the mind? That's what Prabhupada is telling you. So he says, look at how beautifully Prabhupada connects everything, how he tells you the power of chanting to control the mind. He says, similarly, the mind of a person in Krishna consciousness also acts The tongue chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. The hands are raised in ecstasy. The legs are dancing in Krishna consciousness. These are the symptoms of Ashtasatvika Vikar. Satvika Vikar is transformations of the mental condition in goodness or sometimes transcendental ecstasy. So basically what is happening when you're training your mind to constantly do Krishna conscious activities, to think of Krishna, chant, when you're chanting the holy names, your mind is getting trained and your mind is filled with thoughts about Krishna. Automatically, it is manifest in activities for the sake of Krishna instead of it manifesting in negative or positive activities that are useless in this material world. So they're very closely related. This vibration, it can really control the mind. That's why mantra, we say, Manahat Trayati iti mantra. What is the meaning of mantra? Why do you chant Maha Mantra? To deliver the mind. So this is the best way to control the mind. There was another point that was mentioned in these two verses. A controlled mind is the best friend. Uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy. That point was mentioned, right? How do we understand this with practical examples? So let's see how we understand this through three lives. Three different people's lives. One is the life of Bharat Maharaj. The other is the life of Ajamil, and the third one is the life of Ramananda Rai. So we'll see how mind can be the best of friends and an uncontrolled mind can be the worst of enemies. So this mind is a very delicate thing and it can change our destiny. So we have to be very aware and keep it under control. And three people behaved in different ways because of an uncontrolled mind. And these are their stories. Here, anyone wants to read this particular verse, the climax of Bharat Maharaj's life. Translation, someone can read.
Translation, who can read? Hitesh Prabhu, you are there to read? Okay, Mataji, let me read.
Sorry, Prabhuji, actually I'm driving right now.
No worries, no worries. Translation of Prabhupada ki jai. At the time of death, the king saw the deer was sitting by his side, exactly like his own son, and was lamenting his death. Actually, the mind of the king was absorbed in the body of the deer, and consequently, like those bereft of Krishna consciousness, he left the world, the deer, and his material body, and acquired the body of a deer. However, there was one advantage. Although he lost his human body and received the body of a deer, he did not forget the incidents of his past life. Hare Krishna.
Very well. So at the time of death, where was his mind absorbed?
Completely on the body of deer.
Yes. So his mind was absorbed in the body of the deer. So therefore, what happens in his next life? He gets the body of a deer. Santakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram. Here. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajattante kalevaram tam tam neva iti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavita. Whatever state one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. So if our mind is not controlled and our mind is absorbed in something that is very mundane, then this will be the result. Now, this was the climax of his life. He was a great sadhaka. Actually, Bharat Maharaj, he was practicing devotional service very nicely. He was a great sadhaka. He was doing everything nicely. But unfortunately, during his last years, he ended up being very attached to a deer. Though he had learned so much about devotional service, though he was living in a solitary forest, he was trying to do his sadhana very nicely. Still, he ended up being attached to a deer, and when the climax came, instead of thinking about Krishna, his mind became fixed on the deer. And this is the tragedy. At the time of quitting his body, at the time of death, according to the law of this world, what happened? He took the body of a deer. Though he was elevated to the topmost platform of devotional service, he did not forget the incidents of his past life because the Lord is very merciful. Okay. Though he got the body of a deer, the Lord remembered all the bhakti that he did. So the Lord awarded him remembrance in the body of the deer. And later, the same mind, and see, at this point in time, his mind got bewildered a bit. He got attached to the deer, and when he left his body, his absorption was in the deer, so he got a deer's body. But the Lord did not leave him. The Lord made him remember his past life, so that after quitting the dear body, when he got his life as Jada Bharat, that was his next life, he got his life as Jada Bharat. That time he remembered. He remembered and he used the same mind not to get diverted in anything material. If you read the life of Jada Bharat, you will see that he was simply not interested in anything material. He was living like a madman. A commoner would think this person is mad, but his mind, where was it? It was completely absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. So just with that mind itself, he got delivered. So there is a very nice life story of 3 lives of Jada Bharat, of Maharaj Bharat. How through 3 lives he was able to conquer his mind and he was finally delivered. So we see how mind can easily get bewildered. Okay, it's not very difficult for the mind to get bewildered. But if the mind is suitably engaged in Krishna consciousness, and also one important lesson we get from Maharaj Bharat's life is that though he was engaged in Krishna consciousness, there was one thing lacking for him. He did not have devotee association. If he had devotee association, that devotee would have told him, Prabhuji, don't forget, your final focus should be on Krishna, it should not be on the deer. And he would have brought him back to his senses. So we see bhakti has so many limbs. You have to chant the holy names, yes. You should read Shastra, yes. At the same time, it is very important to take association of devotees. ABCs of Krishna consciousness. ABC. A is association, B is books, C is chanting the holy names. And D, of course, is diet, which is eat a nice prasadam for your sustenance. So ABCDs of Krishna consciousness is very important. Even if one is lacking, there is a problem. The other example I wanted to point out, this is a negative example. How the mind is so fickle, it can be easily influenced. It is like a monkey. Little bit here and there, the mind gets a little feed gone. That we see in the story of Ajamal. Anyone wants to read translation?
Who is available? Ravi Prabhu, you're there?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Prabhu. Mata Prabhu, can you read, please?
Yeah, translation from Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. As far as possible, he patiently tried to remember the instructions of the Shastras, not even to see a woman. With the help of this knowledge and his intellect, he tried to control his lusty desires. But because of the force of Cupid within his heart, he failed to control his mind. Hare Krishna.
So, with the help of intelligence, he was telling himself, yes, you have to take your mind away. He saw it. So, what's the context? What is this verse all about? Ajamal was born in a Brahmana family. He was raised very nicely. He was educated nicely. He was also married off. But then it so happened that by chance, he saw a low class woman with a low class man who was very intimate, and that scene disturbed him. Okay, that scene disturbed him, and the mind is very fickle. The mind is very fickle. You might think that you are so well trained in scriptures, you are doing your sadhana so perfectly, but then you see something off that is attractive to the senses, the mind will slip. Very, very difficult. He had to succumb to the force of Cupid within the heart, and he failed to control his mind. This is the power of the mind. He's trying always, but he had failed. See, Prabhupada in the purport, he says, this we have to analyze this, because sometimes we think we are fully equipped and we are not going to succumb, but it can happen to us also. That is what this particular story of Ajamal is teaching us. Prabhupada says, unless one is very strong in knowledge, patience, and proper bodily, mental, and intellectual behavior, controlling one's lusty desires is extremely difficult. Thus, after seeing a man embracing a young woman and practically doing everything required for sex life, even a fully qualified Brahmana, as described above, could not control his lusty desires and restrain himself from pursuing them. Because of the force of materialistic life, to maintain self control is extremely difficult unless one is specifically under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Through how? Through devotional service. We have to take shelter of the ABCDs of Krishna consciousness. If we lack even a bit, if we take it a little relaxed, mind will run. So it's a very sad story. But again, the climax was not so sad. What happened at the time of death? Somehow or the other, he called out Narayana. Nama Bhas. Again, holy name comes to rescue. This holy name is so powerful. I take it very cheaply. I take it very cheaply, and I'm ashamed of it. But my mind sometimes plays too many tricks on me. But holy name is so powerful. At the time of death, though he lived a life like this, he succumbed to the calling of his mind. He lived with that prostitute for the rest of his life. He gave up his wife. He gave up his parents, and he went on to do all sorts of cheating business, acquiring money and breaking all the regulative principles. This was Ajamel's life. But at the time of death, the holy name came to his rescue. He just called out to his son Narayan, and then what happened? The Vishnu Dutas came. And he was given a second chance. The second chance he used nicely. Sometimes we are given chance 2, chance 3, chance 4. We never use anything. That is our life. But Ajamal was a very successful devotee. He was able to use his second chance nicely. So when we read Ajamal's story, we should not only see this side of him, we should see the other side also. He was able to use the second chance very positively, very nice. So these are examples for us to learn. The story of Jadabharat or Maharaj Bharat, how small thing, compassion for another living entity took him away from Krishna consciousness. Compassion is such a great virtue. Imagine compassion, it's celebrated, such a great virtue. But that virtue pulled him away from Krishna consciousness. So Maya can take over in any form. We should be very careful. And here we see that this lust is very difficult to control. The mind, the calling of the mind, it's very powerful. So we should be careful. And remember, Krishna will not leave you. In the case of Jadabharat also, Krishna somehow or the other, through that remembrance, he rescued him. In the case of Ajamal, through the holy names, he rescued him. So yes, we all succumb to the calling of our mind. We make mistakes, but Krishna will never leave us. So these are negative examples. Let's see one positive, fantastic example. If you see this example, you know how fortunate we are to be devotees. Okay, that is the story of Ramananda Rai. But of course, famous stories are always there. We often quote, the minute we quote Ajamal, for positive example, everyone will quote Haridas Thakur, right? Haridas Thakur, he was chanting the holy names. He was a great devotee. He was surrendered unto Krishna. When Maya Devi herself came, when that prostitute Lakshahira came, he was not bewildered. Why? Because he had taken full shelter of Krishna and the holy names. That example we often give. But look at this example. This is at a different level. This is the story of Ramananda Rai, and it is there in Antya Leela. And beautiful story. Nobody can be like Ramananda Rai. It's too much. So just look at him. And I think everybody understands like all these callings of the mind, how the mind is very fickle. And when we read such stories, it's difficult to explain these stories because these characters are very complex. It's very difficult to explain. But then if we pay a little attention, we can understand their underlying devotion and we can try to imbibe a bit of their qualities. There was once a person by the name Pradyumna Mishra. He was a Brahmana and he went to visit Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he had a request from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The request that he had is that I am an ordinary householder and I want to hear some important topics about Sri Krishna. So tell me something about Krishna. Give me some Harikatha. He went and asked who? Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when he went and asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a different plan for him. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I don't know many topics about Krishna, but I know one person who knows a lot about Krishna, and that is Ramananda Rai. So you go to Ramananda Rai and you hear topics from him. Okay, so having said this, Pradyumna Mishra, he accepts the advice given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also glorifies Ramananda Rai. He says that this Ramananda Rai, he performs his regulative principles according to his varna and ashram very nicely. And at the same time, he is very attached to Krishna. So he gives a glimpse of who Ramananda is. So now Pradyumna Mishra, since he heard from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he should go and meet Ramananda Rai, he goes to Ramananda Rai's house. And at that time, a servant tells him to be seated. Okay? And Pradyumna Mishra was waiting, and then he inquires from the servant where Ramananda Rai is and what he is doing. That is when the servant tells Pradyumna Mishra what Ramananda Rai is doing. This is what he was doing. He says, there are two dancing girls who are very beautiful. They are very youthful and they are expert in dancing and singing. Ramananda Rai, at this time, he has taken those two girls to a solitary place in his garden, where he is teaching and directing them to dance according to the songs he has composed for a drama, Jagannath Priya Nataka. He had composed a beautiful drama and he was teaching the girls how to dance. He says, please sit here for a few moments, and as soon as he comes, I will let you know. Now, while Pradyumna Mishra was seated there, Ramananda Rai, he had taken those two girls to a solitary place, and what did he do? With his own hand, Ramananda Rai massaged the bodies of the two girls with oil, bathed them with water, and cleansed their entire bodies with his own hands. And then he started dressing these two young girls. He decorated their body with his own hands. But as he was doing all this, he remained unchanged. There was no reaction on his face or his body. This was the mind of Srila Ramananda Raya. See the word mind. This is the mind of Srila Ramananda Raya. His mind, no disturb. Not at all, not a little bit of disturbance. While he was touching the girls, he was like a person who was touching wood or stone. Does your mind get disturbed if you touch wood or stone? No. His body and mind completely unaffected. Why? Why is Ramananda Rai like that? Here is the answer. Srila Ramananda Rai used to act in that way because he thought of himself in his original position as a maidservant of the gopis. He knew his constitutional position as the servant of the Lord. Prabhupada says that you should be in Krishna consciousness, you should be able to invoke your constitutional position. That is when your mind is under full control. So what happened with Ramananda Rai? Ramananda Rai knew his position, that I am not a male, I am not a female. Who am I? I am the servant of Krishna. What is my constitutional position? I am the maid servant of the gopis. That is my constitutional position. Gopi Padakamalayur Dasa 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 Anudas. That is my Gopi Bharatur Padakamalayur Dasa 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 Anudas. That is my constitutional position. Yes, externally he was in the body of a man, but internally what was his spiritual position? He considered himself to be a maid servant of gopis. So he was literally seeing these two girls as gopis. He was dressing them as gopis. He was helping them to dance as gopis for the pleasure of Krishna. The job of the Devadasi girls was to dance for the pleasure of Krishna. And they were in Gopi Bhav when they are dancing. So Ramananda Rai was helping them go in that mood of Gopi Bhav and dance for the Lord. And he understood that he was training the Devadasis how to dance. And he was thinking, after all, I am a servant of the gopis. So I am treating them as gopis. So I will serve them in that way. He was not thinking these girls are for my enjoyment. He was not thinking like that. He was not even seeing the bodies of the girls as being female for like a conditioned female body. He was thinking, oh, they're transcendental gopis, like that. And every day, this was his job. He would take to the Devadasis, he would teach them how to dance. And his mind was never ever absorbed in any sense of sense gratification. And for a conditioned living entity like you and me to go and see this, it would be like immediate judgment, okay? Like, who is this man? Why is he doing all this? Immediately we would be judgmental because that is our conditioning. So anyhow, after he finished this, and he came. The servant went and told Ramananda Rai that Pradyumna Mishra has been waiting for you. And when Ramananda Rai came, he offered his obeisances to Pradyumna Mishra with all respect, and with humility he began to speak. See the mood of Ramananda Rai. Ramananda Rai, see, if you're doing something bad and somebody is coming and visiting you, some great Brahmin is coming and visiting you, you'll feel very embarrassed. You'll be, oh, why did he come at this time? You'll feel very embarrassed. Oh, did I get caught? No, Ramananda Rai was as innocent as ever. He came, he paid his obeisances, and he tells Pradyumna Mishra, I'm so sorry I had to make you wait for so long. I've become an offender at your lotus feet. What can I do for you? And Pradyumna Mishra didn't know what to say. He just said, I simply came to see you, that's all. And he saw that it was late and he couldn't talk much to Ramananda Rai, and he decided to leave. But our Ramananda Rai, he was completely very, very innocent. He said, oh, how can I serve you? Sorry, it appears that I have delayed you. And then Pradyumna Mishra, when he goes back to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he tells about all the activities of Ramananda Rai, and he tells, how do I understand this? See, Pradyumna Mishra was such a fine gentleman. He didn't judge him and think, what a dirty fellow, and he didn't go away like that. He went and submitted to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, tell me how I should understand him. And that is when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says this. Imagine these are the words of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's telling this. Amita sannyasi nara virakta karimani dashana rahu dure prakatira namaya dishuni Tabahina vikara paya mora tanumana prakriti darshani sthira hoyakona jan. He says, Amita sannyasi. I am a sannyasi and I consider myself very renounced because I'm a sannyasi. But what to speak of seeing a woman? Even if I hear the name of a woman, I feel changes in my mind and body. Therefore, who could be unmoved by the sight of a woman? It is very difficult. This is the power. Everyone, please hear the topics about Ramananda Rai. Although they are so wonderful and uncommon, they should not be spoken, meaning people will easily misjudge him. The two professional dancing girls are very beautiful and youthful, yet Sri Ramananda Rai personally decorates them with his own hands. He bathes them, he decorates them. Nevertheless, the mind of Ramananda Rai, Tabu Nirvikara Raya Ramanandayaramana, his mind never ever changes, though he teaches the two girls how to physically express their transformations of ecstasy. This is the power of the mind of Ramananda Rai. His mind is as steady as wood or stone. Indeed, it is wonderful when he touches the young girls, his mind never changes. So, here, no one else can understand the mind of Sri Ramananda Rai. And the reason he's like this is because he's completely surrendered unto Krishna. He thinks himself as the servant, the maid servant of the gopis. He has understood his constitutional position as the maid servant of the gopis. He doesn't think in terms of bodily identifications. So this is the power of Sri Ramananda Rai. So we learn from this story, of course, we cannot imitate Ramananda Rai. It is impossible to imitate Ramananda Rai. Nobody can do that. But then we can understand how when a devotee is very, very surrendered and when he is constantly thinking of Krishna, he has understood his constitutional position and he can never look at anybody in a materialistic sense. So this is a very nice positive example of a person who has his mind completely controlled. Here, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself says, Sri Ramananda Rai is situated in the path of spontaneous love of Godhead. Therefore, he is already in a spiritual body and his mind is not materialistically affected. So this is the greatness. Once you have understood your constitutional position, once you're fixed in the path of Krishna consciousness, your mind will not be materialistically affected. Okay? So this is all about the mind. There are positive examples, there are negative examples. Even if the mind is not properly controlled, there is nothing to worry so much. Krishna will somehow or the other protect us, give us another chance. But who's our role model? People like Ramananda Rai. So we should aspire to advance in Krishna consciousness so that someday our mind is controlled like great personalities like Ramananda Rai and Haridas Thakur. Okay, so that's all I have for today. Do you have any questions, comments, thoughts?
Dear devotees, any questions?
Hare Krishna Mataji, it's very nice. You have explained us with the example. I have one question about Namabhas. Can you a little bit explain about Namabhas?
So basically, Ajamil, he didn't call out Narayan thinking of the Lord Narayan. He just called Narayan thinking of his son. Okay, so it was not Shuddha Nam, it was not pure holy name. It was Abhas, like a shadow. But then he called out with all sincerity. So it is not Nam Aparad. When there is no sincerity and involvement, it becomes Aparad. And there are different aparads that we chant, the 10 offenses to the holy names, when we make deliberate mistakes in chanting the holy names. But his was not deliberate mistake. He was very sincere, very emphatic, but still he didn't think of Narayan and call out to Narayan. He thought of his son. So it was only a shadow of the holy name. The shadow of the holy name helped him and gave him a second chance. Then what to talk about Shuddhana? When you really chant the pure names of Krishna with full involvement, then there's no question you're immediately liberated.
So what we are doing, we still not do attentive, so we still have a nama prad, right? What we are doing, we cannot pay attention 100%. So we doing nama prad. So when do you go to the Suddha stage? Do you go in between the Namabhas? Do you go in between Namabhas stage and then you go Shuddha? Or you can just go without Namabhas?
Yeah, you can go without Namabhas. You can. It's not a rule that you should go only through Namabhas. You can directly move to Shuddhanam. If Krishna is very merciful, if Radharani is very merciful, it is mentioned that beneath the mundane senses that we have, the tongue, the ears, beneath that the spiritual senses are there. The spiritual senses are awakened by the mercy of Srimati Radharani when the intent and the endeavor of the sadhaka is very sincere and Radharani is watching and she decides to awaken the spiritual senses. So when the spiritual senses are awakened, that's when the Shuddhanam is uttered by the tongue and that can purify you. That's it. I mean, that's the end. That's the end in the sense that is the greatest purification that one can receive through the holy names. So it comes with practice, of course. That's why we are asked to chant every single day. It's not that we just chant once and we are done. We are asked to chant every single day. It is recommended we try to increase our rounds. It is recommended we improve our chanting by various methodologies. But this holy name will take us.
Thank you, Mataji.
Mataji, I have one question. See, this is the culprit mind. Because of this only, we all are here, right? So I was hearing Rasmrita Swami Maharaj lecture on this only. He was saying same thing. This mind is so dirty. Because of this only, we have come in this material world. So he says that is what you need to understand. It's the biggest culprit in the body. So that is what we need to train, and that's the reason we are doing chanting, right, Mataji? So here in the when you do chanting, right, Mataji, just now you just said, right, what we try to control in the mind means how the mind is controlled by chanting. You said some word you said I could not reproduce it. Mana mantra, something you said, right, Mataji? What is it you said?
Manahatrayati mantra.
What is that?
That which delivers the mind is a mantra.
Okay,
it has the power to deliver the mind.
Okay. And Mataji, one more thing I have is you see, this mind is such a dangerous thing. Everybody in this call, I believe, at the time of sleeping, right? We don't get sleep, right? So I always say that I keep chanting in the mind, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama. I automatically, what negative thoughts, sleep is not coming, it disappears, and that will help to go back to sleep. So what do you say, Mataji, on this? Any comments you have?
Of course, Prabhu. Why not? Why not? It will silence all the unwanted thoughts.
Keep chanting.
Yes.
And second thing, one more thing, Mataji. Now, as you just saw Bharat Maharaj, right? he had compassionate, and that's the reason, poor guy, he got a deer body. And I say that he got a deer body, Krishna is very merciful, he gave him deer body because he loves deer. He cannot understand the deer of the baby deer because he having human body. But when he gets a mother deer body, now he can understand the baby deer, what it is trying to say. So Krishna is so merciful, he gave them whatever desired. So yeah, my question was, now in our Vaishnava Sampradaya, there is one also reason, right? When person is about to die, they go and chant at their house, right? That significance you can say, Mataji, for that.
Yeah, it is very powerful because whatever the ear is very active, it is one of the senses that is active even if you're in coma, the ear, right? So through the ear, if that repetition goes in, somehow it is fed into the mind. Like continuously, even if you play Prabhupada's chanting in the house continuously, your mind is repeating the names, right? You hear something like film music, for example, film songs. When we used to hear film songs, the whole day we'll be murmuring the same song. Like that, when you're continuously hearing that, your mind will start murmuring it continuously. So it's a very powerful process. That's why at the time of death, people go and they do kirtan for the person who's
Correct.
leaving the body.
Correct.
Yeah. It's very helpful. Yeah, that's what we are recommended to do.
And the takeaway message is also of this one, right? Sukadeva Goswami. He was also seeing, right? When the ladies were taking bath, they did not have anything because he was transcendental. He was walking and
Walking,
and
yes.
Vedas came, they immediately covered their body. This he's not the transcendent, that's the message they gave. I like that verse which you read there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, that's a perfect comparison. Very much like Ramananda Rai. Yeah, very beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, devotees, anybody has questions? Jay Prabhu, mind, you're talking about mind. Any questions?
That's a wonderful class, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Seriously, class.
A lot to learn. I'm sure I'm going to go back and look at the video again.
Ravi Prabhu. Ravi Prabhu, Vishaka Mataji, any questions, Mataji?
Mataji, I have one question regarding, I'm planning to take a Bhakti Vaibhav course. So what is that course? You learn whole Bhagavatam in one session, or they've divided into 3 or 4 sessions?
So it's 2 classes per week. We finished module 1, which is the first 10 chapters of Bhagavatam. Now we are in module 2, which is from 11th chapter onwards. So like that, there are over 6 modules for Bhakti Vaibhav. We will finish from Canto 1 to Canto 6. That's how we do the course, Mataji. And then afterwards, from Canto 7 to 12, it's called as Bhakti Vedanta. If we finish one batch of Bhakti Vaibhav, we'll start Bhakti Vedanta.
And what homework we are supposed to do?
Oh, you have to do short answer questions, which is closed book exam for every module. And then you will have to do essay answers, and you will have to memorize some shlokas and chant
So
shlokas.
just like Bhakti Shastri.
Exactly.
Same pattern. One
Only thing is it's Bhagavatam. That's all.
And one last thing, that you have some PPTs also, right, Mataji? We need to prepare some PPT and present that also.
Present some topics. Yeah, you'll have to present a few topics, like give a class. Yes.
Vishaka Mataji, any questions? Ashish Prabhu, Brijraj Prabhu?
Mataji, thank you so much. Your class was really very, very, very I mean, I really struggle with this thing that my mind goes even if when I'm chanting, it just goes and thinks of all past times. It just thinks of all future times which has not even come in my life, and I just keep on thinking and thinking, and I don't realize that I'm still chanting and I'm still thinking.
Yeah.
And it is so, I feel so bad. Then I feel like, no, I will do one more round. I just wanted to ask you that is it just to just for my mind to not think so many negative thoughts? Is it just increasing my rounds, or is it something else also I need to practice? Please guide me.
You can attend some seminars that talk about how to chant effectively. These seminars, they help. There are so many tricks. People like to keep their eyes closed because the eye is actually a very big culprit. The minute you have something in front of you, your mind is going through your eyes to different places.
Very
So
true.
some people, they like to sit in one place, keep their eyes closed and chant, and they see that the concentration is getting better. Some people like to sit in one place with the back erect. So there are so many tips and tricks. Some people write the Mahamantra and they go like, when they're chanting Hare, they like to see the word Hare. When they say Krishna, they like to see the word Krishna like that. They have it printed and then they keep looking through it while chanting. Some people like to take darshan of deities when they're chanting. So they fix their mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. Like they have a nice deity wallpaper or something. Or you can sit in the temple and chant looking at the form of the deities. Their concentration improves. So there are so many tips and tricks, Mataji. Something that suits you, you can implement.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
It looks nobody
તમે
else.
ઢોકળા ખાવા છે કે પછી શું કરવું છે તારે?
Okay, Mataji.
કરું?
Mataji,
મૂકી દઉં ઢોકળા?
one question I have. So why is there so much emphasis on what person remembers only when he's leaving the body, like only when the kind of he's at the end time, right? Means if someone kept chanting and maybe kept being a great devotee all his life, but then all that is forgotten by the God, and only in that last moment someone did something and that takes precedence over the other thing. I don't understand that part. So is there any way to explain that kind of
Yeah. Okay, so if a devotee is very, very sincere, and if he has lived a very nice Krishna conscious life all his throughout, and he has never, what do you say, like somehow at the time of death, he is not able to remember Krishna. Sometimes our body, it is very demanding. When you are in extreme pain, think about when you're in extreme pain or when you have having a debilitating disease, it is very difficult to focus your mind on Krishna. It's not easy, right? It doesn't happen very easily. So that's when Krishna in the Varaha Purana, he says, Yadi vatadi doshena mat bhakto mam na cha smaret aham smarami mat bhaktah nayami paramam gatim. If my devotee is unable to remember me at the time of death, because of disturbances that is felt within the body at that time, then I shall remember my devotee and take him back with me to my supreme abode. So, meaning Krishna has not forgotten us. If our endeavor is very, very sincere, and if our desire and our attachment is towards Krishna, then if because of some disturbances, that final moment we didn't think about Krishna, it's not a big sin. Krishna will think about us and take us back. Okay? Krishna gives us so many discounts. Now, why is that final moment so important? That is actually your question. Does that decide a lot of things? Yes. Why? Because at the time of death, what happens is your mind will be automatically drawn to what you're attached to the most. It happens, it's natural. At the time of death, the only thing you will want to see or think about is the thing that is most dear to you. If your wife is most dear to you, happens to 90% of the men in this world, or the husband is most dear to the wife, happens to almost 99% of the women of this world, then there is a very good chance that that is your attachment. That's where you want to be. So you go there. Meaning you get, if you're a female, you get a male body. If you're a male, you get a female body. Okay. The process of bhakti is very forgiving. Of course, Krishna comes and he reminds you again and again. He tells you, you were attached to her unnecessarily. Be attached to me at least this time. Na? So he'll come and remind you and he'll help you conquer even that attachment. He's very forgiving. Okay. But if we are so inclined towards something, we will get that. It is natural. Like, for example, Dhruva Maharaji, last time Bimal Prabhu was also giving his example. He just desired he desired a kingdom that is greater than his great grandfather, right? Krishna gave him, but when he saw Krishna, he thought, oh, I was looking after broken pieces of glass. Yes, Krishna gave him this Dhruva Loka, which is greater than the abode of his great grandfather, greater than the kingdom of his grandfather. At the same time, he said that that is as good as Vaikuntha. You will be liberated in that planet. Dhruva Loka is like an extension of Vaikuntha. Right? So the idea is Krishna will fulfill what we truly desire. If that is our true desire, if that attachment is what we actually look out for at the end of the day, he will give that. But again, he's not left you. He's not left you like an orphan. He comes behind you and he pulls you. He's a very forgiving.
Okay.
Okay, Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you, Mataji.
Well, and sometimes it's scary, but
Nothing is scary,
that's what.
Mataji. You saw him also, right? Our Bharat, Jad Bharat, he became, right? So he will give the remembrance. Not to worry. We should not think we boarded the flight.
Correct. That's what Prabhupada says. You're already there. You're in the journey of transcendence. You're right there. It's not very. Jiva Goswami, he gives the example of a needle passing through many leaves. Like you have a lot of rose petals, you're passing a needle. Actually, how does the needle pass through many rose petals? It goes one petal after the other. If you microscopically look at it, it takes a long time, one after the other, one after the other. But then if you look at it from a distance, it's like one go, one pierce, it's in. 10 petals are put together. If you're microscopically looking at it, one after the other, like that. Our life is also like that, one after the other. Slowly we are going to attain perfection. But when Krishna says, Arey, in 2 minutes you attain perfection. You just did a little mistake, you went away, and you attained perfection. So that is in Krishna's eyes. Because the number of lifetimes we have gone through is so many. We have already gone through millions of lifetimes, and in 2-3 lifetimes we are attaining perfection. It's like an instant second. Yeah. So,
Okay, Mataji. It's
Thank
almost
you, Mataji.
6:30. Wind up. Thank you so much, Mataji, for a wonderful class, and we'll meet next week, definitely.
sure.
Vanchakalpa.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha कृपासिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. Anantakoti Vaishnavavrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Mataji.
Thank you, all dear devotees. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.